Hi everyone, welcome to Off the Podium. I have a conductor, composer, arranger, educator, all-around Renaissance man, a dear friend, Greg Hosharian. Welcome to Off the Podium.
Thank you, Tigran. Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
So when I was looking into this podcasting, I realized that you went to CSUN. For some reason, I had missed that.
Oh, really? Yeah. I went there I did my graduate work there.
How was that experience?
It was a great experience. It was some really, really good teachers. There was a teacher that's not there anymore. He retired, Dr. Kessner. He was a great teacher. I learned a lot from him and some of the new teachers that were there as well. And it was a different experience than where I went for my undergrad. Actually, I went to Cal Arts.
Oh, that's right. Okay. How was that experience?
So it was interesting. Cal Arts was, has a more of a how do I say, avant-garde, like more experimental, and CSUN was a little more traditional. So it was kind of nice to get the best of both worlds.
Yeah. Well, so going back to going back from now, but Dream Theater, doing rock music. How did you get involved with that music?
Well, I mean, I started as a classical pianist when I was younger, studying classical piano and all that, and then I went into. I have a friend, David Mosikin, and he wanted to start a Doors cover band, and so he came to me and I heard "Light My Fire," and when I heard that song, it was all keyboard based, and I was like, "Wow, I'm a keyboard, I'm a pianist." So it really just got to me. I loved it so much that I said, "Okay, I'll learn these songs," and that's where kind of my rock roots started, and where I started improvising and all that, and then eventually started playing with a band called Redemption, and we had an opportunity to tour with Dream Theater, which was really awesome.
And the band is still happening. From what I saw online, they're still active.
They are still active. I'm not active with them at the moment, but they are definitely still active. They're recording a new album right now. I think they're almost done with it, actually. In fact. And I've been still keeping up with them, and I keep in touch with them, and they're still active, definitely.
So what prompted the change in the career or genre, and not continuing to do the rock music and kind of switching to some other projects that you have going on now?
Well, I mean, I still do some rock music, but I don't do as much as I did before. I think I was doing a lot of that. I was in different bands. It's actually interesting because at some point I said, I'm not going to do any more bands. I'm going to just really focus on my the orchestra, and then all of a sudden I kind of got back into the bands. I started a band called Armenian Space Station. That was another group that I started. But I really started to take a lot more interest in the orchestral music, even though I've been doing it for quite a long time. I wanted to focus more on that and starting the orchestra, the Armenian Pops, and getting that off the ground too as well. So I think the rock music took a little bit of a backseat, unfortunately, but I'll bring it back. I'm sure I'll get back into it too. But at the same time, when I'm composing the orchestral, I'm also incorporating the rock music in that too. So I get it in there somehow.
So how was the experience touring and opening for Dream Theater?
Oh, it was one of the best experiences of my life. I mean, when I first heard about it, I didn't even have any words to say, because I was completely shocked, because we from, let's see, maybe when I was 16 or 17, I started listening to Dream Theater, somewhere around that age, 18, I don't remember. And I've been such a huge fan, and 12 years later, now I have an opportunity to actually tour with a band that's like one of my favorite bands of all time. Some guys that I look up to, and especially the keyboard player Jordan Rudess, who now actually became a friend of mine because of that tour.
And I saw what he wrote about you, which was great.
He's done that, and I've actually worked with him on some projects and stuff, and I worked with him at the NAMM show last year. Did some work for him, and so it's been a great experience. I mean, we got to tour 25 cities in the United States, so that was a really cool part of it. And we got to be in a bus, just like all the rock stars get to do, and
that's awesome.
And we got that experience. So it was a really really great experience. I really enjoyed it, and became like I said, became friends with the band, and especially the keyboard player Jordan Rudess, and that part of it. To me, it was an amazing part of it, and I got to be with my friends, the guys in Redemption, every day, and that was a great part of it too.
So, did you ever play with the Dream Theater? Did I read that correctly somewhere?
No, I didn't actually play with them, but the band that I was playing with, Redemption, we opened up for them.
That's what I thought, but then I thought I read somewhere that you might have played with them, but maybe I just misread something. Going to the Armenian. The band that you had after Redemption, right? And you guys ended up going to Armenia. Was that your first time in Armenia with the band?
It was my first time in Armenia.
What was the experience like? I have not been to Armenia. My family moved to the States when I was 11 in 1998, and I have not been back. So I'm going back next year. My brother, his girlfriend, my wife and I, we're gonna all together. We're gonna go back to Armenia. It's gonna be 20 years. I haven't been there. So how was your experience?
Nice. That sounds like a lot of fun. Definitely. Actually, I think I'm going to go back this year too. In fact, just to point that out, maybe in the summer sometime. Yeah, but anyways, our experience was great. I mean, we started Armenian Space Station, and it's so funny because everybody wonders, like, is there a space station in Armenia? but there isn't. Obviously. We don't have a NASA in Armenia, unfortunately.
And actually, it's funny because Arto Tunçboyajian has a band called the Armenian Navy Band, and we don't have a Navy. So
that's right. That's right. Yeah, I forgot. That's right. They do have that. Yeah, and it's interesting. We actually launched the band. Our first show was in Armenia.
Oh wow!
So, and it wasn't planned that way. It just happened. The timing just happened to be right. We started the band. Mm-hmm. I don't remember, in the summer, I think, of 2009, and then we recorded this EP, these four songs, or four to five songs that we did, and then Baret, our drummer, somehow he was talking to someone that's from Armenia that was putting on this show, and so they invited us to play this rock show that they were having over there. They invited us out, and they had some other rock bands in Armenia, and it was an outdoor venue. It was really awesome, and I mean, just such a good experience. Everybody there was so nice and kind, and we got to meet a lot of people, and just really had a good time playing there and rehearsing and doing all that good stuff.
Yeah, when I think of rock bands, obviously, and I know some friends who are rock musicians really hate this comparison, but the first band that comes to mind, for obvious reasons, because of their fame, is System of a Down. Armenian band, and I remember a couple of years ago when they went to Armenia for the first time, they had that crazy huge show outdoors. I don't know if you watched it, but it was their first time in Armenia.
Of course, yeah, the one for April 24th.
Yeah, and it was amazing. It was great to see that whole place packed with people and singing the songs with them, and it was just such a powerful experience. I feel for like a lot of people who were their fans for many years, never seen them. So
yeah. Definitely, they felt some kind of. It was just such a great feeling for them to have them there. They've probably been waiting for them for so many years, and finally they came, and it was just the timing, the day that it was on. I think everything was so perfect for their.
So based on that, what kind of collaborations have you done with Armenian musicians in the LA area? Who do you collaborate with? Maybe recently, or some memorable collaborations that you've had specifically with Armenians?
Well, I had a collaboration with you when we did the when we did the concert in March. So that was definitely a recent collaboration when we did the concert at the Ambassador. That was a great collaboration. And other collaborations I've done. I mean, one was with the Armenian Space Station, Baret Yerevan, who's he's a producer. He's produced quite a lot of pop music actually, and I do collaborate with him and. I've collaborated with other artists. There's a lot of people actually that I want to collaborate with, and I'm trying to find the time, of course, because there's so much going on.
How do you manage your time? That's what I want to know about you, because you are absolutely a fantastic individual, and you do so many different things. How do you manage your time? Some tips for the rest of us.
Yeah, I hire people to manage my time for me. I don't do that. I don't do that. But actually, I'm now having someone help me, assist me with some things, because it's just getting so busy. Things are getting busy. But I just do the best I can, write stuff down. I have a to-do calendar, and I just try to go through it every day and get things done. But I gotta always put time aside for composing or practicing, because if I don't, I won't end up getting to it, because there's so much stuff going on all the time.
So inspirational people who have inspired you in your career, maybe both family and also just people that maybe you've met, or teachers or mentors, or people maybe that you have not met and have inspired you.
Yeah, I mean, of course, my as you know, my dad was definitely a big inspiration to me musically. I mean, just overall as a father, of course, but musically was one of the biggest inspirations to me. And then throughout the years, I've had other teachers. When he passed away, I was introduced to a Japanese teacher, Kiko Dohi, who I still keep in touch with, and I studied with her for about 5 years of piano, classical piano, and she really took my level from where I was to just like much higher levels of playing, because just studying with her, she's such a great teacher. So she's definitely was my mentor and someone who's inspired me, throughout these years, and then going into college and high school and college, I had some really good teachers along the way. I actually went to Pasadena City College, and I had a teacher. His name was Mike Matacek, and he was an amazing mentor, theory teacher, composition teacher, and I learned quite a lot from him before going into CalArts and CSUN.
Yeah. One thing that classical musicians, you've had the classical background, and you've actually said that it's very important for, I remember reading something that you wrote, or it was an interview that you said it's very important to have the classical base and the classical training. How have you come around to improvisation? Because I've realized one thing that really frustrates me with the music education programs in colleges, etc., is that we don't get a lot of that, and we don't have the flexibility to improvise as classical musicians. You're great at that. You know how to do that. How have you done it? And what would you recommend to young musicians who want to improvise but don't have the resources, don't have the college or music school that helps them get to that point or lets them experiment with that?
With the improvisation, yeah. I mean, for a number of years, when I was younger, my dad used to actually play. He would play melodies, and he'd make me harmonize them on the piano. Like, he'd have me harmonize them. So that was my first sort of introduction to improvising. I'd have to figure out where the chords belong, where they would fit into the pocket. So I remember doing that when I was a kid, and then later on, when I really got into improvising was when I listened to like I was saying, the Doors and Ray Manzarek, the keyboard player. They all they did was improvise. These guys, they would write songs, but then they'd improvise for 20 minutes in the middle of the song, especially live when they did it. So I would listen to a lot of their records, and a lot of their things, and then of course I transitioned into jazz and other jazz players, Dave Brubeck and some of the other great pianists, and that's where I started listening. I didn't really take any lessons in improvising. I was taking classical piano lessons, so it was like my teacher, she improvised a little bit too, so she would actually show me some things, but a lot of the stuff I would listen to as well. I would learn from the albums. Listening to some of the different great improvisers, jazz players and stuff, and then I took a few lessons here and there, as well. But you're right. You're absolutely right. A lot of classical musicians don't improvise, and unfortunately, they never learn to improvise. But some do. Some could do. Some could do everything. But I feel like sometimes when I'm playing with classical musicians, I'll sort of inspire them to want to try improvising, and I love that because I want them to improvise. I want them to try to improvise and see what they could come up with and some ideas that they could come up with. But
and of course,
advice to the younger students: just listen to a lot of stuff and take study with people too. I think studying with a good teachers would be good for them too as well.
Yeah, well, improvising is just like anything else. The more you do it, the better you get at it. there's no way, if you can't just sit back and hope to improvise someday. You have to just keep doing it, and you'll eventually get better at it. Just like sight reading, I get a lot of students who come into the audition for my youth orchestras, and I'll give them something to sight read, and they're like, I really hate this. I can't do it. I'm terrible at sight reading. It's a matter of just doing a lot of it, and then you'll eventually get to a point where you feel much more comfortable doing it.
Yeah, it's all like you said, it's all in practice, just like anything else. It's like, you gotta keep doing it, and you're just gonna get better at it as you go along.
I want to talk about fears, because you put together the Armenian Pops Orchestra from scratch, and you didn't have any fears in putting a group together of that size, and actually having the vision to make it happen and make that work. What are your fears, though? Musically, it seems like you don't have fears because you do so many different things. But does Greg Hosharian have any fears?
I mean, the thing you fear when you put together something big like that is, everything costs so much money, obviously, to produce a big concert. Right. So that's the thing you fear is like, is everyone gonna? Are we going to be able to meet our budgets and not lose money? You know what I'm saying? I guess that's the biggest fear, when you're doing big productions like that. But at the same time, I'm the kind of guy that just says, you know what, I'm just going to go for it, and I'm going to see what happens. You know what I'm saying? And I like that kind of feeling. And I started on the smaller side. We didn't start at Ambassador, of course. We started at Zipper, which was a smaller venue with 400 people. So even that's a lot, to start with. I understand, but I felt like it was the right timing to do something like that, and then. But you do fear that. You fear, is it going to be sold out? Is it going to be this? Is it going to be that? So there are some fears. Definitely.
Why is it important to have the Armenian Pops Orchestra? There's so many musical things happening. Why is that important for LA or for the community, for the worldwide community in general? Because a lot of people listen to the music, the videos that you post after the concerts online. There's a lot of people who view them not just from the States but from around the world. So why is it important to have a project like this?
Well, for me, I always wanted to start some type of orchestra, but I wanted to do something that a lot of people are not doing. I know there's other pops orchestras around. We have the Hollywood Bowl, of course. They do more pop stuff as well in the summertime. But Armenians, we don't really have a pops orchestra. It's either classical or it's more pop music, not orchestral pop music. So I thought me starting something like that, it would give me an outlet to play my music too, as well as other arrangements of other music that I arrange or someone else arranges. But it was important for me because it's a good outlet for me to show my music as well and to perform my music. But at the same time, I don't think a lot of the people that come to these concerts actually go to orchestral concerts that much, you know what I'm saying, unfortunately. So I think it's a good way for them to learn about what we do, what you and I do, you know what I'm saying, as conductors and musicians, and it'll give them another outlet of saying, wow, this is something different. Maybe they'll go see a LA Philharmonic show or something at the Hollywood Bowl, or whatever, or the Pasadena, Symphony, or whoever's around, you know what I'm saying, in LA. So I think that gives everybody an opportunity to learn more about it. And I feel like I do it in a little bit of a different way to kind of get a different type of audience, to enjoy that type of music.
What's Initial D fourth stage?
Initial D. Okay, so Initial D is a Japanese anime about drifting, so race car drifting in Japan. And one of my friends, Ben Chan, who I worked with in a rock band a long time ago, he was the music supervisor on this show, and so he called me and said, we need a composer to do some of the music. And so I agreed to do it right away. I've already had done some small little short things, film-wise, but I hadn't done anything on a larger scale like this, because we did like 40 episodes. of the show. So it was a great experience. The interesting part was when I got the footage, it was all in Japanese at first.
Wow.
Because this was a Japanese anime that was already established.
Yeah.
So they were doing everything in English, changing all the music and the dialogue and everything. But the first things they gave me was in Japanese.
Wow.
So I understood nothing about what I was, looking at. But they gave me a script and everything, so I kind of followed it that way.
Yeah, it was interesting to see that. I didn't even know about that. When I was researching about you, I came across some link which directed me there. So that's the first time I saw your name associated with that. So that was great. You're in one of your classrooms at a college. You teach at a college. Why is music education important?
Well, it's important for us to guide the younger students to teach them what we've learned, to teach them what some of the things that we've learned in our lifetime. I think it's very important for them to learn rather than just sort of practicing at home, and that's an important part of it too, of course. But to come and to learn from not just me, but they learn from their peers too. They learn they learn from everyone in the classroom because everybody offers something a little bit different. So we're always learning from each other, I believe, and I'm there to sort of facilitate that too as well, and give my knowledge, but also let them learn from each other too as well. So that's an important part of the way I teach in the classroom.
Advice to young musicians with all the experiences that you've had in your career.
The thing I always tell musicians is get as much experience as you can. Go see lots of shows. Go listen to a lot of people. Go play with a lot of people. Don't just play with one or two different artists. Go learn from. Go play with other artists. Like in other words, jam sessions or just work with other people. Because you're going to learn from them. Go to school, of course. Music education is important. Like we just talked about, but definitely collaborations I think are really important because, or just going and playing with someone in a jam session or a gig, because you're going to learn from that person too as well, and you want as much experience as you can. Also, on the flip side, I think it's important for them to connect with different people. So connections are important too, just as much as knowing your craft. So someone taught me this thing. He said luck is preparation and opportunity meeting together. So you got to be prepared, and you got to have the opportunity to meet people, or be in the right place at the right time. Because if you meet someone and you don't know what you're doing, you're obviously not gonna get that job, or vice versa. If you're sitting in your house and not getting out there, you're not gonna. So it's those two things are gonna get you what you need to be. So
a lot of performances all over the place. Any that come to mind that maybe you stepped up on stage and then realized that your keyboard is not connected, or maybe you forgot the music, something of these sorts. Anything?
Oh man, that's an interesting question. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I mean, it's happened before where the keyboard is off, or I just don't. I'm trying to remember an experience like that, but I know it's happened. I know it's been there where something was off. Maybe it wasn't my keyboard. Maybe it was the vocal mic or something. You know what I mean? I don't remember exactly, but I haven't had any really terrible experiences. Fortunately, you know what I'm saying. So hopefully that doesn't happen sometime in the future. But if I think of anything, I'll let you know.
I've done about 50 or so of these, and in the recent weeks, I'm incorporating a blitz kind of a questionnaire. So answer these questions, funny or serious, it doesn't matter, or you don't have to answer it. But what is your favorite word?
My favorite word?
Yeah.
Okay, technology, because I love technology.
Least favorite word?
Least favorite word. Oh man, I don't know. Hold on, I'm not doing the blitz. I gotta be faster
Take
at this,
your time.
right?
It's okay.
I gotta be quicker at this. Okay, you gotta buzz me out. I gotta need the next one. I don't even know. I don't have a least favorite word.
What sound or noise do you love the most?
Oh, what sound or noise? Oh, I have a good one. The orchestra tuning.
Wow. What sound do you not like?
What sound don't I like? An electric sander or a chainsaw, that kind of thing. I hate those sounds.
If it wasn't the career of a musician, what would you want to do other than music?
That's a good question. I think I'd be a chef.
The first album, if there is one, that inspired you to be a musician?
I would say it's my dad's album, his Red album that he had. Yeah.
Other than the Blitz questions, I actually wanted to talk a little bit about your dad because, your dad was well known in the community for many, many years. And there might be people that don't know him now that listen to this. Just a little bit about what he did for the community and his legacy.
Yeah, so he started the first Armenian orchestra here in LA back in the late 60s, I believe, the Armenian Philharmonic Orchestra of Los Angeles, and they did lots and lots of shows here. I mean, throughout the years, about 20 years or so, and he worked with many organizations in Los Angeles and throughout the United States, Armenian organizations mostly, and worked with all the different communities here, and brought music, Armenian music. It was always around because of him. There wasn't much happening at that time, like we have now. We have so much more, Armenian pop music and all kinds of stuff happening, in Los Angeles especially. But anyway, so he did a lot for the community and for education too. He was an educator as well, and recorded several albums with different Armenian singers and artists. So did a lot for the community, and that's why I was so inspired by him.
There's the Hosharian scholarship, which I was a recipient, and then I had a chance to perform with your orchestra, and it was one of the best experiences for me. I absolutely loved it. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, of course, and I would love to do it again sometime in the future. I mean, it was great to have you there. You were an amazing part of it, and everyone loved your performance up there too.
It was great. And one last thing, what's next for Greg Hosharian? What's coming up? What's some project that you're excited about or is happening now?
Well, the thing that I'm working on another concert for the future, probably for next summer sometime. But the next thing that I really want to do is I wrote a piece called The Castle Suite that I premiered at the last concert, and I really want to get a professional recording of it. So that's kind of my next thing that I want to start putting out there.
Wow.
So yeah, so I want to go in the studio with the orchestra and do that. So that's my next goal at the moment.
Did we miss anything? I'm sure there's much more we could talk about, but maybe for another time. Unless you have something else you want to talk about. I still have
to figure out what my least favorite word is, so I'm sorry about that. I apologize.
No worries.
I think we covered all the ground, and I appreciate being on the show and all your time and your hard work, and you're such a dedicated and great musician and conductor, and I'm sure the world is going to see that, as you grow as a conductor.
Thank you. It's great, and again, thanks for the opportunity with your orchestra, and hopefully we'll collaborate more. I hope to have you up here at some point so we could work together.
We talked about doing something. So when the right time comes around, I'm gonna give you something to I'm gonna write something for the orchestra.
Thanks, Greg. Thank you so much. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you, Tigran. I appreciate it.